My job role's changed. So in the digital world, things move really quickly. I'm a senior manager now of solution architecture, but I think the background in the smart nations and IoT is actually quite interesting because digital transformation is moving into the physical world as well. Amazon, as you may know, you probably know, was launched in the mid-90s, and we had a goal to be the Earth's most customer-centric company, and we've launched many different businesses. The online bookstore, which you're probably familiar with, and online commerce. We've also launched products around Amazon Fresh Food, the Amazon Alexa product, and then in 2006 we launched Amazon Web Services, which is our cloud computing technology, which enables digital transformation in governments and organisations. Now, my background is in computer infrastructure. So for many years I worked in data centres, networks, uninterruptible power supplies, all the heavy lifting of IT. And the business stakeholders I often spoke to would say things like, IT is where you put your money in and get excuses out. IT is where projects go to die. Technology is too complicated. They change the requirements again. And why is everything needed yesterday? And these were all fair comments to make. Technology is hard, but does it have to be this hard? At Amazon, we had similar challenges as we seek to scale, as we grew our business. We had cumbersome, monolithic, large, slow systems which were hard to change, and it meant that we couldn't respond to customer requirements, provide a better customer service, learn about our business. We actually had a system called Obidos, which was named after a village in the Amazon River, and ironically it was actually at a location, a bottleneck if you like, in the Amazon River, and it slowed us down. So at Amazon we had these realisations. The first realisation was that every new project we built was like reinventing the wheel. It was artisanal, it was bespoke, it was slow. There was a long time before you got to business value. And because technologies and the groups that put together the technologies all came from different streams, had different capabilities, different technologies, different standards, systems became complex, complicated, and therefore brittle, and you're often really reticent to make changes. So this slowed down your ability to innovate. And that meant that new features were very slow to be released. Now, if you're seeking to provide a great customer experience or respond to a security threat or build something very quickly, say in response to a pandemic, the ability to release new features is critical. So we made some decisions at Amazon. We wanted to spend less time building and maintaining the IT infrastructure, my background, my former career, and more time building new features. And to do that, we thought, how can we standardise and really break down into repeatable building blocks and capabilities, the ability to build new services, for example, web services like Amazon Web Services by name. And we also had skills in building and maintaining large, complex data centres around the globe, and we thought perhaps this could benefit other businesses. So in 2006, and that's quite a long time ago now, we launched Amazon Web Services and really started cloud computing, and which enabled digital transformation. Now, the definition of cloud computing is the on-demand delivery of IT services over the internet with a pay-as-you-go model, and it's a deceptively simple concept, but it's been transformative, and it transformed the industry in which I work. In 2006, we launched 3 services which startups mostly could use to build systems, websites. We had a server service, so you could build a server. We had a storage service, and we had a queuing service. Now, we roll forward to this year, 2022. We have this eye chart. We have over 200 services. We have the broadest and deepest range of services in the world in cloud computing, but we also have an increasingly diverse range of services in analytics, machine learning, Internet of Things, and also we have even a contact centre service. So if you're looking at setting up a contact centre and if you've been involved in legacy contact centre projects, you know they can run for months and months and years and cost millions of dollars. So you have this broad capability and deep capability of services that your technology builders can use to build systems. It's like going to Bunnings if you're a hardware person and you get access to all this, one of these hardware super warehouses, you get access to all these tools for building your systems. So where do you build them? So this is important to understand that we have a global infrastructure, and this is how we organise the capability that our customers can use to build technology solutions. And if you look at this map, you'll see the grey icons. They're the existing regions. We've got 26 regions around the world. And we have announced another 6 regions, I believe, might be 6, green regions shown on the map. And this is important to point out that there's been no region in New Zealand for a period of time, and they've been innovating extensively with AWS building solutions for their big tech companies like Xero, but also the University of Auckland does a lot of work with us, and Wellington City Council has migrated all their systems to AWS as well. Each region is actually made up of a cluster of what we call availability zones, and I'm not going to get too techie today, so don't worry, but an availability zone is made up of 1 or more data centres. So a regional construct gives you a lot of scale and a lot of reliability. And our Sydney region was actually one of the earliest regions to be built, and it's been over 10 years, so it's got a very long heritage of operation. So why do people build technology solutions in the cloud? What are the advantages? Well, if you ask people before they go, they often say cost, but the primary benefit that people get from building in the cloud is agility. This is the ability to respond really quickly and build new customer features and create great customer experiences. It's the ability to respond to security threats as they come up, because you've got the ability to see through software everything that's happening in your environment. So you've got great visibility, and also you've got great controls to remediate security. And also you can respond to uncertain circumstances. So we've had many governments especially respond during the time of pandemic, building systems on the cloud which they couldn't have done with an on-premises approach. Cost savings is a big part of this as well. Rather than spending large amounts of capital expenditure on data centres and servers and cabling and power supplies, you can reduce your capex and spend it on business features. You only need a credit card to start building something in the cloud. So as a business, you can very quickly trial experiments, build things and run them and test them out, validate them before you scale them. And we're working with several PNG organisations now, the Department of ICT and several telcos and financial organisations on those types of projects. Elasticity is a very big benefit of the cloud, especially with government systems. So in 2021, the Australian census was launched with partner PwC on AWS. And if you think about that, that's a system that you really don't need much capacity until the census night, and then you need the scale to support millions of users, and then it scales down again. So it's a very good workload for cloud. Also, emergency management systems. So you end up with a lot of emergency management systems where you don't need much capacity until the emergency happens, and you need to get notifications out, and there are millions of people trying to get access. It's a great benefit of the cloud as well. Another side, which a lot of customers have taken advantage with in these turbulent economic times, is if they're going through a downturn, the cloud also provides the ability to reduce costs. If your businesses are going through a downturn, you can scale down the resources and turn off things you're not using and stop paying for them. Now, those first 3 use cases really give you the ability to innovate faster, because you're lowering the cost of failure. You can try many more things. You don't have to invest in hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars of hardware and capability before you can trial something out. And the last benefit that many customers have, and if you're a startup or an entrepreneur, it's a great benefit, is you can grow a business in your region, but then because our global infrastructure across our 26 regions is created using a consistent interface, you can take that business and scale it globally. And I've worked with some great Australian partners. Big Mate's a good example. Actually, they started in Brisbane, and their computer vision and industrial safety solutions are now being deployed globally because of this capability. So why does all this really matter? Well, in business, you want to be able to make better decisions faster. So Georgia Pacific are a manufacturer, and they've used the cloud computing to get better insights so that they can do proactive maintenance and do it a lot quicker. So they've been able to save a lot of money and maintain their manufacturing a lot more effectively. A simple use case at Afterpay, which does a lot of payments technologies, is that they were having business intelligence which depended on an on-premises database, which is a traditional approach, and the query took 45 minutes to do. So can you imagine if you're doing a query and it's 45 minutes and you realise you got the parameters wrong and you have to go back? Imagine that frustration. Well, because they had access to those 200 services in the cloud, they redeployed that workload to the cloud and cut that query time to 45 seconds. And of course, you're only paying for the time you use. So it wasn't an increase in cost to do that. Respond better to the unexpected. Well, this is definitely something people can relate to during the last few years. Venmo, with their contactless payments, needed to scale to 70 million customers and scale to hundreds of transactions per second, and they still managed to do it within a millisecond latency on their payment system. In Australia, the Western Australian government set up a contact centre for the COVID hotline in 2 weeks using Amazon Connect, and at its peak was getting 1,200 calls a day. So a great capability, and that was a multi-agency effort between Department of Premier and Cabinet and West Australian Police. Create a better customer experience, which is something people are always interested in understanding how to do better with. NAB trained 7,000 of their employees in cloud skills. They've also created a voice capability using our Poly service, which was a brand created voice using our contact centre as well, so that they created like a brand personality in their contact centre, and have been able to achieve uptime and capabilities up to 100%, which is critical for financial services. T-Mobile, they actually had an experience where they had a legacy application and they moved it to the cloud, and by changing the storage requirements on the back end, they were able to take advantage of technology buzzwords such as microservices and containerization, and they were able to speed up the rate at which they could deploy new features to their customer system. DBS Bank created a self-service data platform. One of the benefits of digital transformation is that you can take data out of its organisational silos and create a self-service data platform, and that's what they did, so that they had a team which could get access to a broad range of business data, made the business data an asset for the organisation, and they could start to get queries and insights that they couldn't get previously. One of my favourite companies is Eagle.io, an Australian company that's gone global and do a lot of environmental monitoring and agri-tech solutions. And they used IoT and sensors and to increase the yield of avocado crops, which are very sensitive to heat and water shortages. So by using sensors, they were able to better protect those crops. And improve efficiency. So Globe Telecom out of Philippines saved $1 million in 3 years, primarily by reducing their Oracle licensing footprint. If you've worked in technology and you've been audited by a traditional software company for licenses, you know how much fun that isn't. And so they've been able to save a lot by taking advantage of the broad and deep range of database services that we have in the cloud, a lot of them open source, so license free. And Capital One, the US, one of the US's largest financial services firms, closed its last data centre in 2020 and runs all in the cloud now. So you can see that some of the biggest organisations with the strictest security requirements are trusting the cloud, and it's freeing them up to innovate for their customers. So we look at some of the characteristics of a digitally transformed organisation and what works for us at Amazon. We believe culture is important, because if you have a strong culture, it frees people up to be autonomous, but also accountable for their outputs. But you need to think about an organisation. A traditional organisational approach really slows down communication, decision making, and those things which impact your ability to respond quickly in the business world, which speed is the most important factor for businesses in the modern world. And mechanisms, we have approach at Amazon where we look at how we can build mechanisms to replace good intentions, to make sure that we're actually keeping people accountable to what they have committed to. And then the execution approach looks as different in a digitally transformed organisation. I'll talk to some of the characteristics of that. So when I touch on culture, we talk about facts, not feelings, and accountability is important. Edward Deming said, in God we trust, all others bring facts. So if you're asking people to giving them autonomy, they also need to be accountable and giving them freedom to act. And also, we don't want businesses where you've got fiefdoms, staring at each other at 10 paces. We want to create an organisation where there's a consistent culture and set of behaviours across it. At Amazon, we have leadership principles. Now, this is a little old, this slide. I couldn't find one that looked good with the 2 new leadership principles. But every Amazonian, as we call ourselves, understands these leadership principles. We hire based on these leadership principles, and it informs our decision-making, so we're empowered to make local decisions. This requires a bit of a leap of faith. How do you empower people to make decisions and trust them to make good decisions? And also, what is the risk of spreading out decision-making in your organisation? And one thing that works for us is we have this concept of one-way and two-way doors. So if we were to create a new data centre region, that's a big decision, requires a lot of analysis, a lot of investment. It's very hard to go back on, very costly to go back on. So we think of that as a one-way door decision, and we take a lot of time making those decisions. But also, we've found at Amazon, most business decisions are two-way door decisions, insofar as that if it's the wrong decision, it's not that costly to go back on. So those types of decisions we disseminate right out to the people working directly on the cold face with customers, so they can make informed decisions. When we look about organisation, we think about organising for agility, not control. So a traditional organisation is very hierarchical, and this was often, these kinds of organisations were built out of the Industrial Revolution, and they served a purpose at that time. But if somebody at the bottom of one of those branches needs to get a decision made, it has to go all the way up and all the way down across to get data from other branches and then all the way back. Really slows down your ability to innovate. Also, what we've found is that businesses that organise this often organise their technology to look like their hierarchy. So rather than organising your technology to align with business value and customer context, it ends up aligning with the organisation, which is clearly not going to get the greatest result for customers. So we like to organise to align around outcomes. So you organise around business value, business function, and give teams the ability to decide how they run their own businesses, but also to be accountable for it. So we have this mentality, if you build it, you run it. There's nothing that drives accountability than a call at 2 in the morning because your system has gone down. The other thing about organisation is that when you build your technology services in an organisation, you can build them to be externalised by default. What do I mean by that? If you have systems of record and data, you can build them to be available to other stakeholders in your business, and you can even build them to be available external to your business, perhaps as an asset or a new business line. By doing that, you can create this model. In this model, you can have people who produce data assets in a business, and then you have other parts of the organisation which seek to get the data they need to make decisions. And you can build a model, and we work with many customers around this marketplace for business data, where you can create a central function which secures, governs, curates data, makes it available as an organisational asset. And we work with customers on technology such as data lakes and data meshes and these types of things to support that. We talk about mechanisms too in our business. As soon as we think, does this rely on good intentions to get done? We go, well, we need to think about how we can create a mechanism. And internally, the most famous mechanism we have at Amazon is one called working backwards. This is a defined process that we use to articulate what the customer pain points are and what the customer service is that we're going to build to respond to that. And the outputs of this process are a future-dated press release and a future-dated FAQ with visuals that talks to the customer challenge and the service that we're going to build. And all of our services at Amazon are built using this approach. There are a couple of famous examples where we didn't follow this approach and things didn't work out that well. We actually run these with customers. So if you're interested in how this process works, we love to run them and share what works for us with our customers, so they can see how perhaps they could run an experiment to build a project using these types of approaches. And then lastly, if we look at execution, Think big, but execute small. Another way you might say it is be stubborn on the vision, but flexible on the details. In a traditional approach to delivering technology solutions in a business, there's a lot of work that goes into the foundation, building infrastructure, standards, hiring teams, agreeing on how to do project management methodology. And there's a lot of work to get done before there's any business value. The governance includes things such as change, problem management, project management, etc. And then you finally get to the use case and the outcome. And that's, you know, a typical legacy IT project can run for, you know, a year and a half, 2 years, or even longer. The digitally transformed approach is to start with the use case, start with that working backwards process as we do, and then build a foundation and a governance for that autonomous team to deliver that function. That allows you to do shorter run projects, deliver value quicker, but also counterintuitively, by doing smaller bits of work quicker, you're actually reducing your risk because the changes are smaller and can, therefore the risk can be minimised and managed a lot more effectively. With the traditional approach, you need to do a lot of testing. You have a lot of testing teams. And the other thing is use the right tool for the right job. You know, when people were doing everything on premises, you have perhaps 5 or 10 tools. You know, you can choose a different operating system, you can choose a database, you can choose just a few things. As I mentioned up front, in the cloud there are 200 plus services and we've not stopped innovating yet. And there's, if you choose the right tool for the right job, you can go a lot further. If you've done any DIY at home and you've tried, I don't know, do something with the wrong tool, you know how much harder it is. And lastly, I just want to talk about our partner ecosystem. So we've got partners globally. We've got over 100,000 partners now, and over 70% of them are outside the US. To do consulting, to do systems integration, to build solutions. We work with many partners around this region, including some in Papua New Guinea, and definitely interested in chatting to Pronto as well, about how we can support them in their businesses. If you're an innovator or an entrepreneur and create a digital solution, a digital product, you can also deploy it in our marketplace. So we have millions of active customers in all industries, all the industries that have been spoken about today. And if your product is relevant for them, you can put it in the marketplace and they can deploy that into their accounts, and that really reduces the friction of making that sale and growing your business. So thank you for listening today. I've hopefully given you a background on what AWS is and how it supports digital transformation and some of the local examples. I'll be around for a little while, and also we have our Head of Technology for Pacific Region, Rob Sequoia, just down here, and we're happy to take some questions now, but also to chat afterwards.
Good morning, thank you. Yes, I'm Stephen from the PNG Department of ICT. We've just recently, in 2019 and 2020, we developed the digital transformation, formulated the digital transformation policy, went through cabinet, and in 2021 and 22 this year, we managed to get through the Digital Government Act in the last Parliament session. And there's a wide range of provisions in there, but the gist of it is that we're pushing government towards a cloud delivery and looking at a whole of government delivery for digital government. That's the Digital Government Act. Currently out now is the Digital Government Plan, 2023 to 2027, which we are now seeking to align it to our macroeconomic policies, next medium-term cycle, as well as the expenditure plan, the medium-term development plans. So that's where we are with our work.
Thank you very much, Stephen. And I guess, Craig, that maybe leads to one question that I thought would be probably something that, in a way, your presentation partly answers, which is the whole idea of sovereign data integrity and the psychological factor that people want to have their data where they are, where they live, where they can see it and control it. And I'm wondering what the key arguments are that persuade people that it's okay to move to a more distributed data approach where your data could be anywhere in the world?
Yep. Security is the top priority at Amazon Web Services. One of the leadership principles that displayed earlier was earn trust. Trust is hard to get and easy to lose, so really important for our customers. As I mentioned, the New Zealand government is running workloads in the Sydney region, and what we give is customers the ability to have full control and visibility of their data. And also we work with a lot of compliance regimes. So IRAP's the one in Australia, where we attest a lot of our services meet the requirements for government workloads in Australia up to protected level. If data goes into one of those regions, it doesn't leave unless you take it out. So they're designed to be autonomous, and data stays in those regions. So you know where the data is and you have control over where it can go to. Also, we provide a lot of security tools over the top that you find very difficult to have that similar capability on premises that allow you to encrypt things, for example, in the cloud. If you ultra sensitive, then keep the keys off cloud, so that even if you're really concerned about data being in the Sydney region, for example, you can make it so that nobody could possibly access it because it's cryptographically protected and you have the keys. In fact, many customers find that they're more secure in the cloud because everything's presented as a consistent interface. It's very easy to audit and see what the current state of your environment is. And also with the ability to use, there's a lot of services in the analytics allow you to analyse access and report really quickly on any configuration changes or potential issues. So many people find that they're actually more secure in the cloud, and that's why organisations like Capital One, the Australian Tax Office, for example, use AWS for their critical workloads.